Alright, fellow skeptics, going to move forward with the SlacKware setup. This is assuming the use of UEFI. As you're seeing, this is what you would expect if you set up your BIOS and you boot off the SlacKware boot CD or installation CD. This is what it would look like. If you're using a non-legacy, by the way, it'll look slightly different. And I went with the top option, hit enter. It's going to load this stuff as you're seeing right now. And this is what you would run into to start. Just hit enter, and you're just going to type in root as instructed. And from here, this is where we're going to set up. I'm going to go ahead and do something real quick. And well, let's do it from start to finish, like I said. So, as you're seeing, it's pretty self-explanatory. You see the introductory paragraphs, and they give you two options to set up your partitions, which is another topic I'll talk about in the future. So CFDisk or FDisk, I've used FDisk throughout my time with SlacKware, dabbling with CFDisk, not too much different, but I'm just used to using FDisk. And this is assuming you're either on a laptop with one storage device, which is most likely to happen. If you happen to have multiple drives, you'll likely want to use the -L switch or list. Again, FDisk, fixed disk. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do... So as you saw, I'm going to go ahead and delete these corresponding partitions just because. So you're going to see the listing here. You see how Linux arranges your storage devices, especially if they're attached to an external adapter card. They'll be identified as a SCSI disk. And that's just a generic identification. Whether you're talking about your SATA drives or... because if you had a traditional IDE, they would be dubbed HDA. So in the case of SCSI disk, it'll be SCSI disk A. And you're seeing here that every partition will be numbered off. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go ahead and FDisk the device. So in this case, dev or device, SCSI disk A, which means it's the first storage device in the sequence. If you had another, it would be SDB, SDC, etc. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to delete these. And I'm going to do that. Now, and I'm going to write that just so I can finalize the deletion of those. I'm going to go in and repeat that command. Again, fixed disk, dev or device, and then SDA, which is the storage device itself. Now I'm going to go into the help and just going to go through the codes I need to enter for this specific function in mind. I'm going to create a new partition. And in terms of partitioning, in the most basic sense, for at least as I've set up SlacKware, particularly in a UEFI, I need three requisite partitions. I need an EFI partition, a swap partition, and then the primary partition where I'll house SlacKware and all the corresponding things, files, applications, etc. If you happen to have more than one storage device, that's where things can get creative. But like I said, another topic for another video. So I'm going to hit N, as you're seeing in the list. I'm going to add a new partition. You don't have to worry about extended partition unless you go beyond the 4 that you want to set up for any reason. So I'm going to just use the defaults. We'll be doing that for the setup throughout. So of course, go with that. And for EFI, you only need so much space. I'm usually safe with about 100 megs. Doesn't take much space. The nice thing about the convenience offered by this setup is that the second part, to specify the size, I just need to put plus the number and then the unit, megabytes, or I should say, as going from left to right, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, or petabytes for P. You can fact check me on that if you want. But as you can tell, going in ascending order from least to greatest, from left to right. All right, let's not waste any more time. And all right. Yep. It puts it to Linux by default. I'm going to hit M for help so that you know, okay, change the type of partition. As you're seeing the code for it, that's just going to be lowercase t. And if you need to see a list, hit L as instructed. And because I need an EFI, look for that in the listing. And once you spot it like I've had, I'm going to use the corresponding code to type. And then I'm going to hit N for new. And of course, not worrying about extended or utilizing the extended partitioning feature yet. And I'm going to go with defaults as I mentioned. And that. And for swap partitions, I tend to go on the side of double the amount of RAM you have. So in this virtual machine setup, I think I set it up for 16 gigs, so 32 gigs. So again, plus 32. And then the unit being specified by letter G. Yep. Sure. Let's go ahead and hit yes. I'm going to hit T to change the type. Again, that, and then I'm going to list it. And then next swap. And then I hit new. And of course, going by the defaults. And I'm going for the defaults again because I'm not going to section the storage device any further. Again, another topic for another video. And I am going to say sure, because I'm going to set it up anyway. And then the last thing I do is, if you want, hit M for help just to make sure what you want to do. I'm going to use W for writing the, I'm going to write the table to disk. I'm going to go into the setup process now, type in the word setup. And of course, just going down the list of things to do, need to add my swap partition. And as you're seeing, the SDA, that's signifying SCSI disk A, and then the 2 is the second partition, which of course we set it up as a swap. I usually say no to this, especially with today's storage devices being rather reliable compared to the old disk platter hard drives, technically speaking. And then of course, SDA 3, that's what we're going to use for everything. I'm going to format it. File systems, do your research. I've been good with X4, but do your research for any other storage device you may end up adding, whether that's an external hard drive, solid state device, or USB flash drive. That's going to be up to you. Do your research and see whatever trade-offs they mention with respect to your intended use case for each subsequent drive you add to your system. So there it is. I'm going to hit that. And I'm going to use everything. That's what I've been doing. Again, with modern storage devices and the cost efficiency of storage, there isn't going to be a need to really tailor your installation. Why not have everything at your fingertips at first go? But again, that's up to you. And here we are. And off we go. I'll check back and then we'll move on to post setup eventually. Alright, so all the components have been installed. We're now going to move on to post setup, or prepping it so we can get it bootable. Depending on what your use case is, I've generally skipped this. However, if you prefer, grab a flash drive. Doesn't take much size. I think you can get away with 256 megabytes or 256 megabytes. If you got to do something in the gigs, go ahead and do it. More importantly, if you have a place you can securely store that flash drive, depending what you intend to use your machine for, have at it. Alright. But for my purposes, I generally skip it. And of course, it detects the EF5 partition. And Lilo is, or Linux in, Linux out is the traditional bootloader. I know there's Grub, there has been Grub. SlacKware uses Lilo, or in the case of UEFI or UFI, eLilo. So I'm going to go right to eLilo. Just going through. Great. And let's see if I have other options. Excuse me. Generally, what they recommend at default, that usually gets you by. So let's or USB connected mouse. And do that. And this is so you can set up server daemons. I generally use the cups. I use an MySQL daemon just in the event I start using Myth TV for any reason. I found it versatile, but I may end up shopping for another TV card if I really want to make sure it works within Linux, but that's another discussion for another day. I always say I'm going to study up on Samba, but, life happens. I read other stuff. Okay? And I generally say no to that and just set it to my own time zone. Why not? Keeps my memory fresh. And I usually stick with the defaults here. And just by virtue of the machine I've set up in VirtualBox, I'll use XFCE. This is just a play environment. Plus, it'll allow me to explore XFCE more. Just because I've gotten so used to KDE, and I do like the ceiling of KDE when it comes to look and feel, settings, and what have you. It's really grown on me over the years. And it's going to be up to you or not, but I generally set a root password. If you're not concerned about securing your Linux installation, sure, that's up to you. All right. And all I got to do is hit exit. And don't mind if I do. And let's go ahead and reboot. And there you have it. Setting up SlacKware from point A to point B. And good to know that the EFI has been picked up and it's booting. From here, it's going to be up to you. And you're seeing run level 3. That is the usual run level, which is going to be in the command prompt or command line interface or CLI. I'm going to log in as root. I'm going to add my standard user. If at any point you decide to change or want to change your environment or desktop environment, oops, let me do that here. Helps to type in the right username. Yep. All right, that's Linux with XFCE, and I can go in and I generally like to leave this off. I don't like reloading all my previous windows. I usually, if I have to reboot and log back in, I generally like to start clean. So I'm going to shut down. And it's going to go like that, and I can go back and start it up. I was going to say about switching up your desktop environment. Let me go ahead and get loaded. The command would be x window manager config or xwm config, and then you'll have your choice of desktop environments you want to log into. Alright, next installment is updating SlacKware. And especially with what I ran into previously, I'm going to probably show the workaround if I especially run into the same occurrence with the kernel update that I'm going to plan doing within this environment, and then go from there. Alright, thanks again, guys. Thanks for your time. As always, leave a comment or a question if you have any questions. Anything else you want me to cover, feel free. And if you like what you've seen so far, feel free to hit that subscribe button. If you want to get notifications, hit the bell, because it'll be defaulted to personal notifications. You won't get notified if I don't tag you. So if you want, you just hit that bell and select all, and then that way you get notifications for any of the videos I do upload. All right, peace, and I'll catch you all on the other side.